Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today starts with, well, a bit of a mystery one. You can really only see from way up high, like 400 miles above the Earth. If you pull up recent satellite pictures of the Egyptian desert, especially west of the Nile Delta, you see something that honestly looks almost unreal.
Right, these giant, perfect green circles.
Yeah.
Just appearing.
Exactly. Hundreds of meters across, smack bang in the middle of this completely barren landscape. It's startling.
It really is a profound change, a dramatic transformation of the landscape, this vivid green stain popping out of the Sahara.
Yeah.
And it's not just the color, it's coupled with this huge engineering feat,
Yeah.
a massive, manufactured river system.
Canals, pipes, pumping stations.
Cutting right through the sand and rock, and the speed they're doing it at is just incredible.
Okay, so that's the surface view. But if you zoom in a bit closer, the picture gets, well, more complicated. Because alongside this agricultural revolution, you don't just see farms, you see new roads, big ones, high-capacity roads.
And huge buildings, silos, cold storage.
Yes. And this is maybe the key part. You see significant military installations built right into the project's infrastructure.
Okay, so that suggests it's maybe not just about farming.
Right. The sheer scale, the almost breakneck pace, and, the secrecy that seems to surround it. It suggests we're looking at something much deeper than just trying to solve a food crisis.
Precisely. We are diving into what's called the New Delta Project, a multi-billion-dollar effort, often hailed as like the future of Egypt.
Right.
Our mission, really, is to understand what's truly driving this massive construction effort carved out of the sand. We need to connect the dots.
Connect the dots between what, exactly?
Well, between these huge historic ambitions, a country that's really struggling with a severe economic crisis, mountains of debt, highly repressive regime that, desperately needs political wins,
Okay.
and this intense competition, often geopolitical, over the one single resource that makes any of it possible: water.
It sounds like an incredibly high-stakes gamble they're taking.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's start maybe with the official story, the narrative they put out there, and just the sheer scale we're talking about.
Good idea. They are literally calling it the New Delta.
Right.
And the ambition is, frankly, staggering. The stated goal is to transform nearly 10,000 square kilometers of pure wasteland.
10,000 square kilometers. That's hard to picture.
Think about the size of Lebanon. It's roughly that size. Into fertile farmland.
Wow. From desert to farmland, the size of Lebanon?
Yeah, and to put that in context for you, if they actually pull this off, they would expand Egypt's total amount of arable land by nearly a quarter.
25% more farmland. That's enormous.
It's an ambition that seems almost impossible for a nation grappling with the economic problems Egypt has. Yet they're pushing ahead with the speed of, like, a wartime construction effort.
And those green circles, the center pivot irrigation systems.
The physical proof, right? The visible sign of that massive government push appearing incredibly fast over the last decade or so.
Okay, so that breakneck speed you mentioned, it's not just for show. It must be driven by some pretty overwhelming pressure.
Oh, absolutely. The demographic and geographic challenge that Egypt faces right now is maybe the most acute of any country in the Arab world.
Let's break that down. Demographics first. How many people are we talking about?
Egypt currently has about 116 million people, already the most populous country in the region.
Okay.
And that number isn't slowing down. Projections, which must keep planners up at night, suggest the population could swell to around 175 million by 2050.
175 million by 2050. That's a huge jump.
It's a demographic time bomb ticking away, and it's ticking inside a very, very constrained geography.
Right, the geography. You hear about the Nile, but just how much of Egypt isn't the Nile Valley?
Almost all of it. 96% of the country is desert, just desert.
96%.
Yeah, so only about 4% of the land. That incredibly fertile, narrow strip along the Nile River itself, and then the sort of fan-shaped delta up north, can actually support agriculture and dense populations.
Just 4% for 116 million people, soon to be 175 million.
And the consequence is immediate. You can see it. Egypt has one of the highest population densities on Earth, within that tiny 4% sliver of habitable land.
So people are packed in tight.
Incredibly tight. Housing demand is explosive. Cities are constantly sprawling outwards.
And where do they sprawl? Onto farmland.
Exactly. They're paving over highly productive, historic farmland along the riverbanks to build houses, industrial parks, roads.
So you get this zero-sum game almost.
It is a constant competition. Homes, Factories, farms, all fighting for the same increasingly scarce land that happens to be near water.
They're essentially sacrificing their ability to grow food to house their growing population.
Which, of course, just makes the food problem worse down the line. It's a self-fulfilling crisis.
And that's why reclaiming the desert, pushing agriculture out into that 96%, becomes such a huge priority.
It becomes a matter of national security, immense political urgency. They desperately need to find new space to grow food without, bulldozing the farmland they already have.
Okay, so that demographic pressure directly feeds into the food security argument. That's the official reason for the new delta, right?
That's the official narrative, yes. And to be fair, Egypt's food situation has been tight for years. The data backs that up.
What does the data show?
Well, consistently, around 8.5% of the population is classified as undernourished. And perhaps more starkly, global indices show that about 1 in 5 children suffer from stunted growth.
1 in 5. That's shocking. Due to chronic malnutrition.
Yes, it's a long-term issue. And linked to that is the country's heavy reliance on imported food, especially staples like wheat.
How heavy is the reliance?
It's not minor, it's structural. They simply cannot grow enough wheat domestically to feed everyone, partly because of that population pressure squeezing the farmland.
So they have to buy it from abroad.
They have to. And that structural weakness, that dependence, turned into an immediate, almost crippling crisis back in 2022.
You're talking about the war in Ukraine.
Exactly. Look at the numbers just before that. A staggering 80% of Egypt's wheat imports came from just 2 countries.
Russia and Ukraine?
Russia and Ukraine.
Yeah.
80%.
Yeah.
That concentration of risk was this massive vulnerability. The government knew about it, but it wasn't easy to just switch suppliers overnight.
So when Russia invaded Ukraine,
the shipments were severely disrupted. Global wheat prices shot up. And suddenly, Egypt's most reliable supply line was either cut off or severely constrained.
I remember the headlines about bread prices.
Yes, the price of bread, a daily essential for millions, just surged. The country was already dealing with inflation and economic stress. This pushed social stability right to the edge.
So the whole food system felt incredibly fragile.
It was exposed for everyone to see. And therefore, the argument for the new delta, this massive project to boost domestic production of grains and strategic crops to achieve food self-sufficiency, it becomes the only logical, immediate answer presented for national stability and security.
Right. On paper, it looks like an absolutely essential, unavoidable national project.
Yeah.
Exactly. Essential, unavoidable. That's the pitch.
Okay, it looks logical, it looks essential, until maybe you start asking who is actually running this essential national intervention. Because this is where that official food security story starts to clash pretty hard with the, let's say, unofficial reality of who holds the power in Egypt today.
Indeed. The New Delta Project, it's not managed by the Ministry of Agriculture or, some civilian development agency.
No. Who's it?
It's driven and directly overseen by the Egyptian military. Reports indicate it falls under the purview of a specific branch, the Egyptian Air Force, apparently which acts as the main coordinator.
The Air Force is coordinating a giant farming project.
Seems strange, but yes. And this isn't really a surprise if you follow Egypt. It's become a systemic pattern.
How so?
This same military-led regime has basically extended its control into almost every major public construction and infrastructure project in the country. We're talking roads, bridges, hotels, housing developments. The military's involved. Okay, so to understand why that matters for the New Delta, we probably need a bit of recent political history, just briefly.
Yeah, it's crucial context. We need to think about the transition from the 2011 protests, the ones that ousted the long-time ruler, Hosni Mubarak.
Right, the Arab Spring moment in Egypt.
Then there was that brief, fairly chaotic democratic period under Mohamed Morsi, elected in 2012.
And then came the turning point.
The critical turning point. The military coup in 2013, led by the then general Abdel Fattah el-Sisi.
And that wasn't a peaceful transition.
Far from it. The immediate aftermath was incredibly violent. The crackdown on protests supporting Morsi was brutal. Reports suggest security forces killed over 1,000 demonstrators in just a couple of incidents. That moment really set the tone for the new regime.
And Sisi then became president.
He secured the presidency in 2014. Officially won with something like 97% of the vote, but those elections were widely seen as rigged or heavily suppressed.
And since then?
Since then, the country has drastically swung back towards authoritarianism. Some would argue it's even more repressive now than under Mubarak.
What does that look like on the ground?
Well, the human rights situation is pretty chilling. Peaceful protest is basically treated as terrorism now. The press, effectively silenced or co-opted by the state.
And critics. People who question the government.
We know from rights groups and reports that journalists, academics, local experts, anyone who dares to question the official narrative on projects like this faces systematic persecution, arrests, torture. It's well documented. Thousands of political prisoners are detained, often without fair trial.
Okay, so that climate of fear, how does that directly impact understanding the new Delta project?
It brings us straight to this black box problem, the complete lack of transparency that makes any real internal audit or external assessment basically impossible.
Meaning researchers can't get information.
When outside researchers try to investigate, they hit a wall, an information vacuum. Engineers, local scientists, even former government officials inside Egypt are frankly terrified to speak critically.
Why? What are they afraid of?
Immediate detention, losing their jobs, worse. It's a genuine risk to their personal safety and their families.
So the consequence of all this repression is...
The military effectively bypasses all the normal civilian checks and balances. There's no real parliamentary oversight, no budget transparency, no public scrutiny of the contracts or tenders. They control everything: procurement, construction, timelines.
It's all internal to the military structure.
Pretty much. As one analyst we looked at put it, when it comes to these mega projects, there is very little concrete information coming out of any of the Egyptian sources. Other than that, they're great projects.
Just trust us, they're great.
Basically, we don't have accurate public records showing the true costs, or how they chose the companies building things, or where any financial returns, if there are any, actually end up. It all happens outside the public budget, seemingly.
So, if the project is run by the military, shielded by this climate of fear, and the costs are hidden, how can anyone assess if it's actually working, or if it's worth the money?
It forces reliance on external methods, which is why that satellite imagery, as basic as it sounds, becomes so incredibly important.
Right. Thank God for Google Earth, you might say.
Exactly. Without it, we'd have almost no independent way to verify the scale, the progress, or, where the green circles actually end and the unsustainable desert begins again.
And this lack of transparency, it's not just like bad governance. It serves a purpose for the regime.
It seems to. It's a mechanism that feeds directly into their political needs. By running these projects like military operations, they guarantee speed and total secrecy.
Which creates an image of
decisive action,
right,
progress, something tangible they can point to. And that image translates almost immediately into political credit, which perhaps helps explain why they keep launching these massive desert schemes, despite their rather dismal history of previous attempts.
Okay, so that's the key pivot. The new Delta isn't actually a brand new idea. It's just the latest chapter in this long, long story of Egyptian rulers trying to conquer the desert.
Yes, exactly. This imagery, this sort of pioneer spirit transforming the barren wasteland. It's always been a powerful tool for leaders in Egypt, going way back.
From pharaohs to presidents.
Pretty much. It's a way to anchor their legitimacy, boost their popularity, frame themselves as nation builders on a grand scale.
So the projects are always pitched as these monumental solutions to big national problems.
Right. Demonstrating the ruler's strength, their ability to reshape nature itself. However, the historical record, according to the sources we reviewed, is pretty blunt.
Oh, how so?
With very few, very minor exceptions, the history of these ambitious desert mega projects in Egypt is largely a history of spectacular failure.
Really? Failure?
Overwhelmingly. So the precedent that the new Delta is operating against is, well, it's daunting.
Okay, let's unpack some of that history. Maybe look at a few key examples to understand the challenge and why the stream keeps recurring. You mentioned the Qatar Depression project.
Yes, the Qatar Depression. This is this huge natural lowland area in the western desert. Parts of it are really low, like 133 meters below sea level.
Below sea level, wow.
Yeah. And the original concept, first proposed way back in 1926, wasn't even about farming. It was purely about generating electricity.
How would that work? Flooding a depression below sea level?
The idea was kind of brilliantly simple in theory, but almost impossible in practice. Dig a massive tunnel or canal from the Mediterranean Sea, letting seawater flow into the depression. Because the desert heat is so intense, the water flowing in would evaporate at roughly the same rate. This would create a continuous, massive, artificial waterfall.
And you put turbines in the tunnel.
Exactly. Turbines in the tunnels, harnessing that perpetual flow to generate endless hydroelectric power.
That sounds ambitious. What would the result have been? A huge lake.
A massive artificial lake, yeah. Estimates suggested it would be roughly the size of Lake Ontario. Huge.
So why didn't it happen? Cost?
Astronomical costs, yes. but also complexity. Though there were some fascinating twists along the way.
Like what?
Well, apparently the CIA took a serious look at it in the 1950s, thinking about its geopolitical uses.
Really? The CIA?
Yeah. And then, even wilder, in the 1970s, a German engineer named Friedhelm Gorecki came up with a radical plan to shortcut the tunnel construction costs.
Wait, I think I read about this. Didn't he suggest using nuclear bombs?
He did. His proposal involved detonating 213 carefully placed nuclear devices to just blast open the channel from the Med to the Depression.
213 nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
To dig a canal.
Yeah. And the scary part is it was actually seriously considered for a while because the cost of conventional tunneling was just seen as completely prohibitive.
Wow. That detail alone tells you everything about the sheer scale and maybe desperation behind some of these desert dreams.
It really does. Anyway, despite some recent feasibility studies looking at it again, the Qatar project remains just that, a pipe dream.
Why? Still too expensive.
Partly. But also the huge environmental risk. Flooding that vast area with seawater poses a serious danger of contaminating the deep underground freshwater aquifers nearby through seepage, salinization.
Which would ruin them for agriculture forever.
Potentially for thousands of years, yes. A huge risk.
Okay, so Qatar was about power, mostly failed.